All right. Well, this is Grant Mussman. I'm one of the admins and co-founders of Blue Dot Energy. It says energy down there. So, more importantly, I've got a good friend with me here, Brian Fahey, correct?
You got it, Grant. It's good to see you.
Awesome. Very good. Well, let's start with what is this position you're running for? I don't think it's one that a lot of people know what it is and what the budgets are it controls and what the organizations are that it's charged with being the board of.
Sure. So the county board, and specifically I'm running for Douglas County Board District 5, but the county board, as with counties throughout the state of Nebraska, oversees the county budget. And in Douglas County, that's a $500 million annually. It's approximately 2,300 employees, a little more, approximately 26 departments or offices. So the county is, in a lot of ways, runs parallel to the city government of Omaha, and it oversees what I call a lot of quiet services or maybe silent services that we tend to take for granted. For example, the county approves the budget or oversees different offices and agencies such as the county sheriff, Douglas County Sheriff's Office. It oversees all the courthouse and administration for the court system at the Douglas County Courthouse, the County Correction Center. One facility that is very important to me personally is the Douglas County Health Center. Douglas County provides elder care for the indigent and other people who don't have other options for elder care, memory loss care. Douglas County is the largest provider of behavioral and mental health services in the state of Nebraska. Not within the county, but I mean, the county itself is the largest provider, both at the health center and at the Douglas County Correction Center. So we rely on a lot of what the county does, but because it sits so low on the ballot and just because of human limitations and demands on our time, we just don't have the time to sort of scrutinize or understand it as much as we probably should.
Gotcha. Wow. That's did you say half a billion, $500 million budget? Do you have
500
any
million.
idea what the city budget is? Like can you compare those in any way?
The city budget is larger by actually some margin, but because it has a larger payroll. For example, police and fire sit on the
Right.
city's budget, um, but the county's is relative to the city quite substantial,
Yeah.
and a lot of things. So a great example would be the courthouse. Obviously, most of the crimes that are being prosecuted at the county courthouse are brought by OPD or by the city, but it's the county that's charged with sort of funding the mechanisms that oversee the adjudication of those crimes. So that's one great example of where the county is responsible for these things, and we don't quite see where that plays into it. But it's pretty critical. It's one of those services where you take it for granted, but you notice when it's not there.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, let's talk about you. Tell us just, not your whole life story. We don't want to be here that long, but a short version.
No, I can keep. We'll see. I like to say that, like a lot of lawyers, I talk a lot, but I talk fast. So so I grew up in Omaha. I was born here. I grew up in Midtown Omaha, just south of District 5 in the Field Club neighborhood, and that was I think pretty formative for me in a lot of ways because it was one of those great old neighborhood like out of a movie. It's gotten more affluent, but it was a little more blue collar when I was growing up there. But the Field Club neighborhood, and it was like, I was in everybody else's kitchen half the time. There was just a clutch of neighborhood kids, and we all ran around and ate dinner wherever and knew all our neighbors. And that was something my wife and I really wanted for our kids. That's why even though we lived for a very short period of time out of state, we knew we wanted to come back here and raise our family. And so we're in the Dundee neighborhood now, and District 5 is a lot like that all over because it covers a lot of central and north central Omaha. So my wife and I met in high school at Central High. We actually met in the high school choir she now directs at Central. She's been a teacher there for 12 years, so we've come full circle. And I went to law school at the University of Nebraska I got my law degree in 2015, and I've been in private practice in Omaha for a number of years. And when this seat opened up, I just thought, the county board. So for some very personal reasons, the county board really spoke to me. And part of my bio growing up was my mom worked. My parents were not married. I had a single mom, and my dad was certainly on the scene, but I still had a single mom. She worked, and so one necessity was my grandmother and her sister, who were these great old ladies. I mean, they grew up. Their dad was an Italian immigrant. They survived the Great Depression, and they really raised me with my mom. And so both of those women spent, while I was growing up, Yolanda and Clara. In fact, I named my daughter Clara after my great aunt, but they both spent extensive amount of time at the Douglas County Health Center in their old age. My aunt
Mhm.
Clara died of Alzheimer's there in 2000. I was with her when she passed away. My grandmother 10 years later had a stroke. And so for me growing up, these two women who were so much a part of my life, we didn't have anywhere else to go with them. And so we really needed the Douglas County Health Center. I don't know what we would have done with Clara when she was really debilitated from Alzheimer's. And so a big part of my story has been these county services. And so when I talk about why are you running for, this race, nobody, people don't pay a great amount of attention to. I mean, that's why I've lived it.
How, a little bit of a logistical question. City council meets like twice a week or something like that. How often do you guys assemble as the term would be county commissioners, correct?
County commissioners meet on Tuesday mornings, and in fact, I recommend that anybody they stream them and they archive them, so you can go on. And one of the things I'm telling people to do is, I mean, let's be honest, we're all on YouTube watching God knows what random clips, and we just need a moment. Go log on to the Douglas County website. First off, the county website, I know this sounds so cliche, but please hear me. They have so much great information about all this stuff you don't know you need that's helping you out. If you just go on that county website, you'll be like, if you are like me, an adult who's suddenly like, God, I'm a homeowner and I have kids and I'm trying to adult all the time. I'm adulting. There will be stuff that interests you, but go watch 10 minutes of a county board race or a county board meeting. I've said county board race many times over the last 6 months, but go
Understandable.
watch a county board meeting. And if you just spend 5 minutes on it, they'll probably talk about something that, believe it or not, you care about.
Mm.
There's plenty of random government minutia, but yeah, if you just go watch a meeting, like they'll be talking about the tax levy in terms that you can, we all understand because they're just seven people like us doing the best that they can. So yeah, no, they meet Tuesday mornings, and it's really worth your time to just check it out sometime for a random 5 minutes.
Gotcha. I think I caught a reference to you being an attorney. Will this be a full-time job? And I don't even know if city council is, but is this a full-time thing? Is this a roughly a half-time thing? What's your best guess? And I'll caveat that one other person, a school board member in Westside told me you can spend anywhere between the meeting amount of time and infinite. And so
Yeah,
being a public official or being an elected officer. So what do you anticipate? Are you going to continue being an attorney? And just fill us in a little bit on that.
no, that's a great question. And the short answer is I do have a private practice. I'm going to continue to do that. The nice thing is I more or less work for myself, or at least work for my own clients. And so that gives me the flexibility to devote the time that I need to the county board. It's not going to be my only job. But you're absolutely right when you say, yeah, you can dedicate any amount up to infinity to it because the truth is, and I talk a lot about this when I door knock, but there are people on boards, and I'm not singling out Omaha or any boards here in particular, but and not the county board where I've really gotten to know everyone on the board, and they really are working hard to do their best. But there's boards that, the work and change and bringing about, positive change in people's lives it's what it means is you're spending the time and you're scrutinizing the budget and you're doing the work. And so the number one promise to make is I'm going to do the work. And people often, we like to think in more idealistic terms or grander terms, but there's people on boards around the country, and I'm sorry to say some in Nebraska, where they're not reading the agenda. They're not taking the time they need to be taking, and it shows. So you're right that it's much more time intensive than just the meetings. There's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of just meeting and hearing out constituents. And I certainly plan to do all of that if I get elected.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about getting elected. This is going to be shared first in the Blue Dot Energy group, which leans a certain direction, but yeah, that may only be at the top of the ticket. We support everybody. Well, that may be a little stretch, but we are supportive down ballot of the blue side of the ticket, but we respect independence and some of the folks running from that angle. And there are lots of great Republicans that have said they're supporting either the top of the ticket or even just the ability to split out the vote. Where I'm going with that is why you? And whether you contrast that with your opponent or not, I'm going to leave up to you. But I'm going to ask for the the elevator pitch. This one's got to be done in a minute or less. So why, if you knock, I answer, why you?
Sure. And so I already got to cheat a little bit because I already sort of teased some of my answer when I talk about my grandma Yo and Clara. So you already know that I've spent a good chunk of my life at the Douglas County Health Center, which is to say that I understand very personally why the services the county provides matters to people and how much and how in such very real human terms these county services matter, even though we don't always hear about them. And given where we're at, and given the, I think, lack of appetite, understandably so, for a further mill levy increase, barring exceptional circumstances, we're kind of taxing what we're going to tax.
Mm.
And the county generally requires property taxes and valuations to rise a certain amount every year just to keep up with costs. In my estimation, I'm not an expert, but there's no way the county property values are going to continue to rise as aggressively over the next 20 years as they have over the prior 20. And what that means is there's going to be less money for the county. And so if we want to protect these services that so many people rely on, we have to look at costs elsewhere in the budget, and we have to scrutinize the budget, and it's a voluminous one. And that's something I do. That's something I do professionally with companies, and that's something I'm prepared to do here. Because if we do not do that, the truth is there's a state statute that says we have to fund a sheriff. There's a state statute that says we have to have a jail, that we have to have a courthouse. There's no state statute that says you have to run a health center. The Douglas County Board could meet tomorrow and decide we're going to close that health center and everyone in it's going to be on the street. I'm not saying they're going to, but that could happen. They are charged to care for the indigent, somewhat generally by statute. But the point is, those are the services that are going to be at the top of the chopping block. And I hope that not because of any nefarious actions or angles by anyone on the board, but just the simple reality of if something's got to get cut, we're going to have a gun to our head with some things and not with others. And so in very real terms, the nice thing about this pitch is I say it to Democrats, I say it to Republicans, because everybody wants these services and nobody wants to get a bigger property tax bill. I don't care who you are politically. You care about both, at least in District 5, you care about both those things, and they're both important. So that's my pitch. I had the experience to do that. I hope people can understand I have the passion for protecting these services because they really affect our quality of life, and that's why I'm asking to,
Yeah, I've known you for a month now, and none of this was teed up. I want to make sure that, but your passion does come through, even compared to some of the best politicians running for any level in this state. I've just felt that every time I've hung out with you. So, did you say that we're not likely? I think I understood this, but I want to re-articulate it and hear back from you. We're not likely to see as much property valuation growth in the next 20 years that we saw in the last 20 years.
Right. And I don't have a crystal ball on this, but Grant, if we do see the same property tax growth over the next 20 that we have over the last 20, that's good for county revenue. But the median price of a home in Omaha is going to be about $1 million.
Yeah.
So we are going to have a cataclysmic housing crisis if that happens. So you see we're dealing with the best of bad options.
Right.
And we're really at the granular level for government services, but this is what makes the difference. When people get their valuation in June or whatever, this is what matters.
Is there a place for innovation?
I think, well, a couple thoughts. If we're talking specifically the housing crisis, which is a whole other facet I know I've only teased
I guess
about.
I was thinking more the mental health stuff, or just, stretching the dollar further than it is. I guess I don't know. It was just what came to the tip of my tongue, so I asked it.
No, definitely. And I think there's, the short answer is, and I say this a lot, and it's not a great thing for a politician to say, but it's the truth. If there was an easy solution, we would have solved it. So I don't, unfortunately, when I knock on doors, I don't come packed with a bunch of easy one-liners about we're going to do A, B, and C. I just try to be honest with people and say, hey, this is hard, and this is going to take some work, and I hope you know that I'm going to do it. But when we talk about innovation, there's a few angles with mental health, which is to say, well, first off, I think I think the residents of Douglas Center are going to get a new mental health facility. I hope that comes to pass. It seems likely where we sit today. Mental health services are currently within the health center. They're housed there, but they're their own entity and they deserve their own facility. So that would be, I think, a boon. And then there's always possibilities for, I think, public-private partnerships. B, collaborations with other state agencies, the one people always talk about. And I don't want to make it sound like, oh, we'll just have the Med Center do it. But are there possibilities for collaboration with the University of Nebraska Medical Center or Nebraska Medicine? That's certainly something I'm open to. But again, we can't oversimplify and just say we're going to shift a lot. We're going to shift it over to their
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah.
They don't want that, understandably so. Um, and then three, what you hope too is that like I mentioned, the public-private partnerships, but that the other resources in either the nonprofit world or just even the for-profit healthcare world sort of, catch up on some of this stuff. We see more mental health care awareness, but the truth is mental health care is not a profit center, as is, for example, oncology, which
Right.
is
Liver trans. I bet we profit on liver transplants.
yeah, pretty profitable stuff. Mental health is not that. And so when a for-profit entity, and I'm not even saying this to rag on for-profit entities, but the truth is that when you are looking at costs to cut, that's where your eyes go. And so that's part of why we're in the situation we're in. We do have some wonderful new private mental health facilities in Nebraska. And the truth is, the county's need, or the need on the county, I don't want to say the burden, but the need on the county is dictated by the lack of services elsewhere.
Mm.
Because so, I mean, when I talk about my Aunt Clara, we had money. We weren't indigent. I don't want to make it sound like, because I don't want to like sell a story that's not true. We were not indigent, but there just wasn't anywhere to go, even though we could pay for that care.
Right.
Or could pay to some extent. I think had we had,
Right.
yeah, millions of dollars, we could have probably gotten her somewhere else, but we didn't
Right.
have enough money.
Right.
So a lot of times it's not just that we're caring for the indigents, that these facilities don't exist. I'll give you one more quick example, but we're on the verge of, what they call the silver tsunami, which is to say the baby boomers are about to entering that phase where more and more of them need assisted living. Well, what do you think's happening with assisted care facilities and elder care facilities in greater Nebraska? Do you think we're opening more or closing more?
I'm going to guess closing.
Dramatically. And the
Wow.
quality of care we're seeing in a lot of them, not across the board, but in a lot of them has dropped off. Staffing's an issue. And actually more people in greater Nebraska are looking to Douglas County because it's there. And they don't have they'll move to Omaha. They don't have any other option. And, as we are in many things as a society, this is not just a Nebraska problem, but we are really behind the eight ball on that one too.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. So it's serious stuff. And lo and behold, there's Douglas County at the bottom of it. Maybe bottom's the wrong, at the somewhere of it.
At the delivery point, where the rubber meets the proverbial road.
Exactly.
There we go. All right. Well, we're gonna have a little fun again. Well, no, I'm gonna hit you with a hard one. Then we'll come back to a little bit of fun. Do we need the county at all? In Douglas County, should we just consolidate into a city county model like Hennepin? And I think Minneapolis and Hennepin have blended. That may not be the correct example, but at least there are cities that have
Yes.
blended. I'm just throwing you right under the bus. What's your take on that?
No, you're fine, and it's a great question. And I'll give you two really honest non-political thoughts on it, which is number one, that talk certainly may ramp up again, but it seems to me from my, I'm not on the county board, I've never held elected office, so just from my John Q. Citizen, that talk has really died down in the last 10 years.
Okay.
And my suspicion why is all of the difficult and hard decisions we've got coming up as a county would thenceforth become the city's hard decisions. And Lord knows the city deals with enough hard decisions and issues on its own, many above and apart from what the county does. But, I think on some level there is some inertia here to just say, well, do we want to have to deal with that? Because we don't have a lot of easy answers coming up, Grant. And so that is, I suppose, I'm not trying to dodge your question. I
No.
think the longer answer is there's the potential for tremendous cost savings for the taxpayers that I'm more than happy to explore.
Yeah.
But
It's good to hear the reality that it's not never been discussed. It's not presently being discussed very loudly. It will at some point come back around. Whether that some point is 2 years or 22 years is hard to predict. So, okay. Now the fun one. What are you watching? What are you reading? And what are you listening to? So what? And you could say, well, I'm reading my kid Harry Potter. I don't really care. Or if you aren't watching anything, tell us your favorite movie. Again, I don't care. What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to?
so I hate to admit that I've been a bad consumer of television lately. And so I will be very honest. The last show my wife and I have watched, and I do tend to be a comedy watcher because it just like I feel bad saying this, but I'm like if I want to watch people just be mad at each other all day, I'll go to work. So I like some of the dramas. I'm like, nah, because I do my work is litigation, so it's just people angry at each other about various things. I read. I I'm just a very ADHD guy, and so reading novels, even though I can and have many great novels that I've enjoyed, that presents a challenge when I have the added stress of the campaign. So I actually read a lot of poetry. I've always been a fan, so I find that easier to digest. So I have a lot. I'm just going through a Seamus Heaney thing right now, and rereading through some of Seamus Heaney's stuff that I really like. And so that's been fun. And then I'm a classical music nerd, so I listen to um, I like so I think I mentioned I sing in choirs. Actually, one of my undergraduate degrees is in music. I conduct a choir when I have spare time to do it, which is not right now. So this summer I have been. This is going to be such a out of nowhere answer, but this summer when I've been door knocking or just doing campaigning, I've been listening to the Vespers of 1610 by Claudio Monteverdi. So he was a great, he was really the birth of the Baroque period. He was really the great figure, sort of like Beethoven took us into the Romantic era. Monteverdi took us into the Baroque era in 1600 in Venice, and he wrote these Vespers. And guys, just okay, go to YouTube, Google Vespers 1610, and just give it a listen. You will have never heard anything like it. It's
Well,
wild.
we can say you did not go with the political answer of Taylor Swift or Beyonce. You went 1620
1610.
Vespers,
Claudio
1610
Monteverdi,
Vespers.
the 1610 Vespers. Give it a shot.
Awesome. All right, you got 15 to 30 more seconds. Just final words.
Um, I gotta give a shout out to you, Grant, and the work you guys have done on BDE. It's just been no, I mean seriously, like it's
Oh,
been
I appreciate we do.
incredible.
Ryan and I and Jenny, his wife, and the whole team of 10,200 as we do this. I'm excited to release it. So thank you. That does mean a lot. And you and I saw each other last physically at Mike. We won't throw his name out there totally, but Mike just hosting a postcard session, which I went to again tonight, and there were 20 people writing postcards. I mean, how American does it get? And I got to bring my son there tonight, and it was awesome. So, well, thank you for your time. If you'll hang on, I'm going to hit the end of the recording button, and you and I'll chat just a little bit afterwards.
Thank you, my friend. It's been a blast.
All right. Bye bye.